Hi, Dr. Ike. Please join the Zoom meeting. I'm going to put up the WhatsApp person. Thank you. All right. Hello, everyone. Let us start so that we're trying to be time conscious, and our guest, she has just a few minutes to spend with us. So we're going to just start. Let's say a word of prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this opportunity to be gathered to you. We thank you for drawing us to this time of reflection, of prayer, of looking at examples on how to build legacies, lasting legacies for our children. We pray for our speaker today that you grant unto our utterance to speak your word, to speak the word of wisdom that you have placed upon our lips with boldness. And we pray that that word will be mixed with faith in our hearts, and it will prosper in all that it's been sent to do, in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. All right, so I welcome everyone. This is Daughters of Sarah. You all know, except if we have guests in the house, what that means. Okay. A few protocol before we start. Since this is a virtual meeting, please try to mute your mic, except when you're talking, maybe you're asking a question or contributing, so that there won't be bad feedback. So Daughters of Sarah is, as you know, called from that scripture in First Peter that says that you all are like your mother Sarah, doing this without being fearful in your heart, right? So Sarah is an example of a woman of a strong woman that was like still waters that run deep. And her secret was in the place of prayer. Her secret was our relationship and our communion with God. So what that means for a lot of us that are here is that a daughter of Sarah is not fretful. She, just like that scripture says, is not worried about what to do, is not confused, is not clueless about what to do. She draws that inspiration from God's presence, and that inspiration could be manifested in wisdom, in grace, in insight, in peace, in knowing what to do per season. So if you're just joining us for the first time, we thank you. Here 3 times in a year, we gather together to pray at the beginning of the year for our men, mid-year for our children, and at the end of the year for ourselves. So if you're joining us this season, you're joining us during the season where we're praying for children. We're praying for our children. Today, I have the privilege of anchoring this special session. It's a special session targeted at building lasting legacies for our children. I know that most of us are middle-aged women, and if the wisdom hasn't been passed down on how to build legacies for your child, it might be something that you stumble through. So as we're preparing during this season, one of the things that God laid on my heart was the fact that in this season He will be pruning and making us that are fruitful more fruitful. He said He will prune so that the branch, that's the word in John 15, a fruitful branch can be more fruitful. And part of being more fruitful is in building a legacy for your child, and for that child to be able to build a legacy for his own children, and generations upon generations of financial, not just financial literacy, financial stability, wealth in families. And we've been journeying on this journey of, logic parenting, parenting with love and logic and all of those insightful resources that we've been studying. So this is a piece of that. This is a piece of that. So I'm going to read Shamim's introduction, Shamim's just a little bio about Shamim. And I see that she's just joined us. Hi, Shamim, how are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Shamim is dear, 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 to my heart. She's the Vice President and Community Outreach Officer for Encore Bank here in the US, where she works to build relationships within the community she serves and fosters partnerships that benefit both the bank and communities it serves. Shamim is also an author of a children's book on financial literacy. I have a copy. I'll talk a little bit about this book later. That focus on financial literacy, aiming to educate young minds about money management, about saving and other essential financial skills from an early age. Our work covered intersects with our passion for empowering individuals and communities, particularly through education and financial awareness. Before joining Encore Bank, Shamim spent nearly a decade working in the nonprofit sector. She spent several years with the Arkansas Food Bank and also worked at FI International. Shamim will tell you that she's an accidental banker. While working in the nonprofit sector, she attended a meeting convened by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. And when she walked into that room, she said she collaborated to bring forth a product for unbanked and underbanked individuals. Um, she was fascinated and challenged, and she returned to our organization then and started implementing financial literacy programming within the food insecurity sector. A few years later, she made a career change and joined the Encore. The rest of that is history. And right here, we have Shami with us. She's done a lot of work in financial literacy, and I'm so excited that she'll be anchoring this session today. So with Jesus join our hearts, we welcome you, Shamim, to our midst today, and we're looking forward to your session. If you shop on Amazon, right, a book, Ella the Banker, Hello, the banker. I hope you can see it. It's available. You can pick up a copy. If you're in the US, especially in Arkansas, you can pick up your copy at specific local stores. And I think Shami will, talk a little bit about that. So without wasting much of our time, she has just 30 minutes with us. She has said, except by some miracle, we are able to extend that. I'll yield to you, Shami. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Joyce. This is an honor, and as I'm sure most of us as women, I am juggling a few things today on Sunday. So I have the cat, our pet is fed, the kids just got their snack, and I have some good friends of mine, family friends, their daughter is heading off to college today. And they're leaving at 5 for Maryland. So we have to kind of exit here and go bid our goodbyes and then come back. Then get ready for the week, back to school next week. So it's a challenge, but I'm very passionate about kind of sharing what I've learned and what I continue to learn in banking. But then I am very regular. Actually, 10 years ago, while working at the food bank, I was on food assistance myself from the government. And so I was receiving food vouchers. So I'm not a kid that grew up with, a lot of resources, but I'm definitely been in a space with a lot of resources in the last 3 years now in banking. And I've been able to use that information for my family, building legacy and just wealth generation and generationally, and love to share what I've learned with other people. And hopefully we'll have time at the end for Q&A, if you have any specific things. So I think I'm gonna share my screen. Let me see. Is it sharing, Joyce?
Yes, it's sharing. It's sharing.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna cover building lasting legacies. And I, kind of when I turned 40, so I'm 43. And so during my birthday in 2020, which was during COVID, I actually was looking at like what will this decade be? So my 20s was kind of college, coming to the US, finding myself. My 30s is when I had my babies. And I actually said my 40s will be about building legacy. At that time, I didn't know what that would mean or how I would get there, but I just had the faith and I knew this is what I wanted this decade to be. And so this is quite a topic that is near and dear to me about legacy. And legacy is what somebody leaves behind when they pass away. And I'm African. I know every time I tell my mom I have a will and my burial arrangement, she don't want to hear, you're bringing in, bad omen and stuff. But I'm like, it's gonna happen. But when I'm gone, what can I leave to my children and their children? And what can I also leave to my community, right? Back home in Kenya, here in the US. So that usually involves something tangible, a home, property. I'm a homeowner. But then it can also be impact. So I think about Sam Walton here in Arkansas, who founded one store, which is now Walmart, which has over 5,000 stores. And then they have Sam's Club, and then they have Walton Foundation, Walmart Foundation. So they have a lot of impact just from this guy who's now gone, passed away, his wife too, that his children are carrying on that legacy, Alice Walton especially, with the family foundation. And then legacy can also be influence. And so I think about President Obama here in the US. I'm from Kenya, and Nelson Mandela was very influential to me in just what he represented for the continent. And actually, in our book, Ella the Banker, the Educator, we named him Madiba in honor of Nelson Mandela. And so that is influence. He's gone and passed away, but he's his work and what he stood for freedom lives on and is passed on generationally. Right now, it's with my children, it's in our book. So that's his legacy is here in Arkansas, right? Who would have thought? And so there is a quote that says, even though our time here is temporary, hold on, let me move my screen. Hold on. It's temporary. If we do good enough job, it will last forever. And so I'm gonna focus kind of on financial well-being, just because I am a banker. And that is one of the best ways to live a legacy with our families, our children, and just the impact that we want. And so I'll share from my perspective as Shamim, because this is informal, some of the strategies I've used, but then I'm also going to incorporate some of the strategies I've learned as a banker that I also use for our family business. And so Start early. I think I started with my children right around when Liam and Ella were about 5. We started doing some activities at home and just talking about money and saving. So whether they are 9 months old and you want to open them up a savings account, which is normally a custodial account, a parent, an adult has to have it, or they're teenagers, or start early. In Swahili, in Kenya, we have a saying, samaki mkunje akiwa mbichi, which is bend the fish when it's still small or fresh out the water, because once it dries, right, you're not able to do it. So the earlier, the better. One of my most successful strategies is I use everyday family activities at home. And just if you think about if you go to church with your kids on Sundays, or you're part of, you like to cook a specific meal on Saturday, something that happens frequently at home, not only can the children participate, but it's muscle memory, and they kind of adopt that by default because that's just what the parents did, that's what mom and dad did, that's what grandmother did, and it's done frequently enough that they can adopt that. So use family activities at home. They're gonna be more reoccurring. And then you can also incorporate other skills, such as decision making. And so, and instill your core values. So one of our favorite things is I do a weekly grocery list. I shop my groceries most of the time once a week. And I have a list in the fridge. And when we're running low on things, we'll add their salt, oil, eggs, what we're running low on, what we need to get. And when my kids were younger, that would help me with literacy, literally them learning how to spell. When we would go to the store, they would learn how to read because I'll be like, what's next on the list? What are we missing? Milk, all that stuff. But then we also would have a budget. And so my children, they would get so good. They were like, you didn't put sugar on the list. That it's gonna make us go over budget. And I'll be like, but we need sugar. Versus, let's say I wanted to buy a hairbrush, or a new blow dryer. Like that was a need or a want. Do we really need it? Can it go to the next level? So groceries is a very good example of an activity that we do at home. If you go to the market, you're shopping, involve your children in coming up with a list and a budget, but also budgeting that, okay, our groceries this month we're estimating to be, $100 or 500, and let them see, did we go over budget? Did we go under budget? What are we going to do with the extra money? And it makes it a family activity. But that's immediate activities, right? They can see the progress immediately because you're doing it so often. But also teach them about finances and money with big purchases. So I didn't do this with my kids when I was buying my first home, but I did it with my kids when I bought a piece of land last year. And they were involved in kind of the pricing of it. They went and looked at the piece of land, it's here in Little Rock. They went to the closing with me, so they understood what I was purchasing. But also when we go on vacations, I involve them. So I said, this time our budget is, $300 versus we went to Kenya. It was a bigger budget. What airlines should we fly? My son is now 11, my daughter is 9. They both have laptops. And Ella really likes this, my daughter. So she'll go and look up flights. American airline is this much. If we fly in the morning, it's 400. If we fly at 7 p.m., it's 900, and then we're making decisions together about money and costs and budgets. But what I also did was, when I was still working in nonprofit and I was making less money at the time, I planned a trip to Disney World in Orlando, and it was 2 years for me to save. But then I told the kids, I'm not buying any souvenirs and toys for them, but they can save their own money. So they came up and figured out ways to make money. And so while I was saving for the trip, they were saving for their spending money. And so Using everyday family activities that you can involve your children as a banker, that is the best. Like, I don't care what curriculum is out there on the internet, but if you can sit down together as a family and do everyday activities with them, that is the best gift you can give them, and you can find it your own way. We adopted the three S's from a Girl Scouts. I was giving a talk at Girl Scouts, and they use the three S's. So save, spend, and share. Um, Open them up a savings account. If you haven't done already, most banks are going to have a children's program savings account. It's really cool. Ours, they get, I'll show at the end, they get like little treats for ice cream, but then I also opted to get paper statements. And so I read the statements with the kids, and they can see how much money they have, how much it's grown, how much savings it is. You're teaching them about financial documents. We have a home saving system. At home, they have both piggy banks, and we also have envelope system that we use. Let me see. I don't know. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see the envelope?
Yes.
Okay. So these are kind of sorry, the examples of the envelopes that we have. I bought this on Amazon, and they're able to put the date, where they got the money for. Was it an auntie? Was it a birthday gift? Was it, for chores? And then they can add it up. This is Ella's. She hasn't done this portion, but this is her coins. And she has her money in here. And then there was a time I needed cash for something, and I didn't have cash, and I came to her envelope. So I actually owe her from June 18th, I owe her $25 because I
Look at
took money
you.
from her. And I know I owe my child money, oh. And so they have an account, but then they also save money. And then we have a piggy bank. Oh, it's actually here. And so we have a piggy bank also from a bank. So I just try to infuse different ways for them to kind of, be involved with it. I give them spending limits. And so usually for their envelopes, they cannot go below $20. So they can spend however much money they want. They have to leave something behind. My son Liam, he has a business. I talk about it at the end. He cannot spend he cannot go below $500 on his business. He has to have some liquid operating account. And so we teach children how to spend, and even us as adults, we get paid, we're spending, we're paying bills, but it's good to teach them to leave a reserve. And they're so young. When they're older, those are the habits they'll pick up when they go to college, when they have their first job. They'll just know that we're supposed to have a reserve. We just don't spend everything. And then the last S is share. So my children kind of have a heart for homeless people. And so a lot of our donations or things that we buy is focused on that kind of charity. But some people, it might be tithing at church, it might be buying clothes, for a children's shelter, whatever, but teaching them philanthropy, that some of their money they should give back to the community. One of the things I've also added on is investment accounts. And so, like I mentioned, my son has a business, and even if he does the three S's, I want him to learn about investment banking and saving for the future. This is money you're putting $25 now, but you cannot touch it for 20, 30 years. Let it grow compound interest in the market. But wealth is built over time in the stock market. And so I gave him three choices. He ended up going with Vanguard. And again, teaching them those, I said, you can choose these three, read about them, go on YouTube, read what investment account is, what is mutual funds, what is stock, what is index funds, and then choose which one has a fee, which one has no fee. And he did all of that, and he's 11. And then he decided to go with Vanguard, and then I'll sit with him and open up the Vanguard account. He's also, like I say, he has a savings account, but he has a business. He cuts grass, and I've told him to get a separate bank account for that one, so he has to choose what account he wants for his business. One of the things that I started doing a few years ago, because it was really hard for me to say, like you see, I still owe my daughter $25. It's hard to have cash, give them cash, take them to the bank. I'm so busy. So one of the things I started doing, my job allows me to automate, to designate, to split my pay 5 ways when I get paid. And so I send a designated amount of money to my children. Every time I get paid, money goes to their account automatically. It drafts automatically, and that has helped. And I started with just $10. And that money grows really, really quick. So start where you are. If it's $5, just get in the habit of them pulling it automatically if you have that option. Then again, when the kids see their accounts statement, they can see when mommy and daddy get paid, they save, and they know that account is for college, just, for future use. One of the things that I have done now about a year, in terms of legacy and building wealth is started the business. And so my son and I, as Joyce said, we wrote a book together. It's called Ella the Banker, based on my daughter who wants to be a banker. But then we started the business and set it up, but then I involve them in the business. And so Liam does the bookkeeping.
Savior.
If we get a check from a business or we have a business account, he goes in and inputs it on it's like an Excel spreadsheet, just so that they're not thinking, we sold this book for $10 and, we sold 10 books, so we have $100. And I'm like, no, 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 there's a cost of goods. We have an attorney to pay. We have business cards to make, we have a graphic designer. So we have money coming in, but we have money going out, and then we have hopefully savings. And if we don't have enough, what does that mean for the business? And so it has just been a joy to explain simple concepts from the business with my children, just from them participating in activities related to the business. And those are skills they can take hopefully into the future when they set theirs up. Benefit for those in the US, I don't know how it works. I'm in Kenya or Nigeria, but there's a tax benefit. And so I can pay my children up to 12,000. It's 12,000 and something, tax free. And then the business, right? SLE, my business just has to write them a check, which means they have to have a savings account. Once they get that check, it can be used however. So we're putting some back into their investment accounts, into savings, spending. But since it's such a small business, it's beneficial for me to pay the children, because if I pay myself, I gotta pay taxes on it, right? And so once the business grows, that's something else to consider. With our book, we were able to apply for trademark on Ella the Banker. And that is intellectual property, but then we also just have a lawyer for the business that does our contracts. And again, I involve my children in this business decisions and let them know, they are aware, not so much complex, they're aware we have an attorney and what they're doing for us. And I keep my baby, she's 9 years old. And so I try to keep it at a level that she can understand. But we have a lot of times we've seen where a family can build a business up, and then if they pass away, the next generation, it collapses. But we've also seen some successful businesses like the Rockefeller Foundation, that Rockefeller, their money is still going, right, for generations. And so how can we bring our children into what we're doing, what we're setting up for them, the assets we're acquiring, and let them know and understand? So when our time is done and we're off to heaven, they can continue with building on all the hard work we've done. And so that's that. My goal eventually is to get into real estate, and be able to have some duplexes. And once my business is at a certain level, which hopefully is next year, I'm going to establish a trust. And so that way, all my assets and everything for the kids is, because they are minors, especially, is protected under a trust. That's what wealthy people do. They do it for legacy, they do it to protect their assets, and attorneys are involved in setting it up, but it's worth it. And I think we will also set up a family foundation again, just so that we can keep our name, right? And be able to contribute to the community. And so our business, as Joyce mentioned, my son wanted to be an author when he was in third grade. When he was nine, about nine. So earlier this year, we published a book. It's called Ella the Banker. And we've done really well in Arkansas. And I'll be, as Toldon is on the call, I'll be in Chicago in October presenting at a national conference for bankers, and that's hopefully going to give us some national traction. But we've done really well for it as a business. One of the things that it has done when we talk about legacy is we set it up as a business just to write a book, but then look at this. I have the proclamation from the mayor from the city of Little Rock, and it is Ella the Banker Day, whereas Shamim Okolloh, a dedicated Little Rock banker, and her son collaborated, some Ella the Banker. So therefore, I, Frank Scott, Mayor of City of Little Rock, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim January 9th, 2024 as Ella the Banker Day forever. Like it doesn't go away. So when you look us up in the history books, we will always have this proclamation from the mayor. We've also been on magazines and some media, and this is things that, like I say, when I turned 40 in 2020, I was like, I want to build a legacy for my children, and we're just in the beginning phases of it. It's been a blessing. We have also, hold on, Liam. Yeah. Mhm. We also applied for a trademark, which is the intellectual property with the US Patent Office, and we have been pre-approved. We're on the last step. And again, this is for generations to come. And I'm gonna have to move that trademark because I applied for it and like switch it to the LLC so that when I'm gone, whoever is running the business, they are going to be responsible for maintaining that approval every time it comes up. We're in the process of working on our second book, Ella the Banker 2. This is kind of the hard copy. Joyce showed it. And the second one we're releasing hopefully by October, sometime in October, in both English and Spanish. And we're looking to work with corporate partners this time and kind of build on those relationships again and legacy. I have a will. If you do not have a will, please get a will. Like I say, Africans, we're very afraid of death in conversations, but your children automatically inherit a lot of money. But then also, if you have a side business, no matter what it is, build an LLC and protect, your assets. But then also the ultimate protector is setting up a trust. Like I said, we have an attorney now. Most women do not have a banker, an attorney, and a CPA. And I didn't have those three things. These are not things I was taught growing up, or even figuring out on my own, but until I got into banking. And so wherever possible, make sure you have either a business attorney, a family attorney, a PCP. So for women, you have a doctor, but a banker you can trust and a accountant. And so, as I mentioned, we've had some coverage in the media, and this is a magazine. And, as much as when we talk about legacy, I want to leave an inheritance for my children in terms tangible. Like this is our Fast magazine cover that we wear together as a family. I'm a single mom. And so this was so special to me. And this is something they can show their children and the rest of their families down the line. We'll always know that we were on a magazine. It was an, cover. It was really important to me and manifested it, right? So my son kind of liked the business, but he was like, I'm controlling the money, right? Because I'm mom, and he wants to buy certain things on when his own. So he started his own business this summer, and he had money to put down for a loan more, but he didn't have all the money. And so instead of me just giving him the $350, I did it as a loan. Like I work at a bank. And so I set it up as a loan for him. He put 30% down and he pays every month. He pays off, I call it Bank of Mom. And so every month his payment is $10, but he's been so busy and done so well. So the first month he paid me $80 instead of the 10 plus interest. And he said the second month he's actually going to pay off the whole loan. It was supposed to be payable in 3 years, because he doesn't like debt. And so he's like, I'd rather pay you. And then I think he's saving up for an Xbox. And so he's learning the like how we as parents, it's so easy to give our children what we didn't have, especially, and they work so hard. They're such good kids. But I kind of want my children to know, like, man, no, we work hard, and you have to work hard. So as you can see, he's on the picture on the right. He is cutting grass, usually in the heat and water. He has to take breaks. He has to keep up with clients. He has to do a good job to get paid, but then he's also learning to manage money, his own business. So that has been really, really good, for him. And then I hired my daughter to be his banker, so she earns money too. Um, and so this is some resources, and I'll email this to Joyce. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a government entity that has some tools for children. Let me see if I click on here, if it's gonna open it up. And this is free, and normally you can kind of go on, they would have some download, let me see, resources that you can download and topics to talk about with the children, the setup for an activity, pencils, different things. So this is a resource from the government. We pay taxes, and so I highly recommend that resource. We also have American Bankers Association. They have resources to talk about banking and youth with money. And you can choose the age group. So if they're 5 to like 12, 13, you're going to go with this category. And again, these are just interactive lessons and tips to help build kids' knowledge and skills. And then they have for high school and young adults, budgeting, career and personal finance, and additional resources. So I say, I just use the stuff at home that works for my family, but definitely tap into these resources that are free and available to the community. This is from American Bankers Association, and I'll pull one more. This one is also good for families, but then also go to your local banks. And so one of the local banks we have here in Little Rock, where my kids have their savings accounts, they have a kids club, and they are able to put some money in there. They send out, hold on. They send us something like this for an ice cream treat, and the kids kind of like it. Um, and you can just kind of figure out what works for you if you don't already have an account. You can, you know, talk to somebody local or a local banker that can kind of help you with that. And so with that, I will stop that and see if there's any questions.
Amazing. Our minds have been blown. Thank you, Shamim. Thank you, Shamim. I have a first question.
Okay.
Please prepare your question if you want to. Um, and I'm going to share on my screen some pictures as Shamim responds to that question.
Okay.
First, how did you, I hear you said at 40, you were like, it's okay, this the decade for building a legacy, right?
Hmm.
Um, and you're a banker. How did you identify what was suitable for your kids? Look, guys, Ella the banker is truly rocking Little Rock. Because when your child comes to you and says for we have this thing book character day for the school
Hmm.
districts, and kids who want to dress up as their favorite book characters. Now, my daughter comes up and says, Mommy, I want to dress up as Hella the banker, right? So when a child says, This is my daughter,
Yeah.
preparing for book character day, and she was like, she wanted to dress up as a friend, Ella, and she took a book, Ella the banker, to school, and I have another picture if we have time. This one was them in school. So imagine a classroom, kids bring in their favorite books, and you spot Ella the banker right there with all the popular authors like Dr. Seuss book and all that. And this is another one when so we had gone for a program, and I saw Ella herself rocking
Hmm.
the room at the Cleaning Foundation, walking the room and talking about her book. This is me, and and her mom just stepped back. She just stepped back and let her do her thing. So I was just super, super, super proud of what Shamim had been able to do with the kids, not just to just write it. I mean, there are many authors. So how did you first identify, you know, for your kids, okay, this is an area, this is a sector where we want to build a legacy. Some people do running, some people do swimming, some people do track and field. They do different things. So
Hmm.
how would you first advise someone that is looking to build a legacy, starting with in their little family, to identify what would suit their kids' interests and be able to, get them involved in the process?
Yeah. So when I said it in 2020, I didn't know. I didn't have an activity. I didn't have the book. I like none of that existed until 2023, January last year. So I just knew this is what I wanted to do and worked when the opportunity came, I was like, this is it. For me, what has worked well is I got something that was around something that we do anyway. Back to the first thing. I am a banker. I am a single mom. So a lot of times, Joyce, which is why she was there with me at that event, I don't have family here. I don't have a husband. So I had to take my children with me to bank events. And sometimes I would pick them up from school and take them to the bank with me. And so whenever we were creating a legacy, a business, it was easy for them to buy in because we were already doing it. If I was a farmer or we were growing pineapple, it
Mm-hmm.
would have been easy to say, let's make the best upside down pineapple cakes
Mm-hmm.
because we have a farm that we're farmers,
Mm-hmm.
or let's design a business for fertilizer because they know that world and irrigation and farming and
Mm-hmm.
they're exposed to it. And so I think for me, my advice is pick something that you're very passionate about. And so it's going to drive you. A lot of times I go to bed at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning when everybody's asleep because that's the time I can build a business. But then I enjoy it. Like I enjoy helping people and my kids love it, but they're around it so much that even if you see them on TV or when they speak, like now when they go do Ella the banker readings, I don't even participate. I let them do it because they're around it so often that it made it a joy. And when it started being too much for them, I pulled it back. And so we're not doing with the second book, we're not doing as many school appearances unless it's paid with the
Mm-hmm.
kids,
Mm-hmm.
just because I was pulling them out of school so much. You get what I'm saying? I can
Mm-hmm.
go to the schools, but I have to limit so that it's still fun for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say just for your family, pick something that is you can learn with them, you can grow with them. When they ask me things, I'm like, I don't know, let's look at Google. So
Mm-hmm.
you're showing them that we as parents don't know everything. We're learning and growing with them, but pick something that is not so foreign to you. Like I can't now start saying we're going to be Olympics. Like we don't do any sports. Like I can't build a brand around athletics because the
Okay.
Kenyans won gold. Like it's I'm far removed from sports. And so I have no something in that. But then in banking, and then now, like I say, with trademark, we're going for products. And so for
Mm-hmm.
like your daughter, we're looking into dolls, we're looking into our own version of piggy bank. So we're growing with the
Mm-hmm.
business. But I just started with knowing I wanted to do it and then meeting the right opportunity, but making it that it's somewhat familiar for the children too.
Thank you so much. Shamim, how many minutes do you have left
I'm
still?
I'm good. I'll text
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Okay. All
Like
right.
I have until at least 4:30 because I go at
Okay.
5.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Oh,
Yeah.
great. So does anyone have questions? Let's throw it up on quick one. Let's check the chat box. Okay. You have the opportunity. Please ask your questions. While we're waiting for that, Shamim, we were supposed to look at a quick one on how to like an hands-on activity for creating a financial plan for a child. What are
Mhm.
like key KPI, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things you should identify for creating that financial plan? Um,
Like the parents creating something or working
yes,
with kids.
working with the
Um,
kids.
I mean, I think looking at age appropriate activities. So like from Liam's business, Liam understood interest and principle. Ella had a hard time with that. And they're just a 2-year gap. And
Mm-hmm.
so there are certain things like planning activities according to making sure it's age appropriate, but it's concepts that they can get by doing it repeatedly, but then also making it fun. And so there are activities that if they were younger, I would have had coloring or drawing or a maze, if they're a bit older, just something that's hands-on for them too, but then that it has the frequency and repetition so that those concepts can kind of sink in.
Mm. And that, I can see that being helpful for class as well.
Yeah, because of math.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Math, economics,
Yep.
what did they do these days? Accounting,
Uh, and
mm,
then public speaking,
public
if
speaking.
you go to the bank with them have the conversation with the teller, or confidence so that they're speaking to these professionals. That way when they're older. So a lot of times in the work I do with banking, I cover the Black community. There's so much intimidation with going to a bank and starting a process for a business loan. I don't know where to start. But if we have the skills and teach our children younger to talk to professionals, it might be 1 or 2 questions. When they're older and making those decisions, it will already be familiar with them.
Okay.
But I would say just age appropriate, make it fun, and either have it that it's a repetitive exercise, or there's modules. So they're
Mm,
learning whatever they learned here, the next module they're building on that skill set.
mm. Okay. I have a question in the chat. Does anyone want to speak? I want to give people the opportunity to do that before I start taking questions that are typed. Don't be shy.
I know.
With everything that Shamim has said today, someone should have something to say. But I have a couple of questions here. Someone is
Okay.
asking, how do I go about setting up a trust, especially locally? And this person is in Nigeria, so she's asking. So,
So you want to set it up with an attorney, and normally the attorney you want to go for is specialized in estate planning.
okay.
And so not a business attorney, not a family law attorney, the ones that do with divorces. So the attorneys that do the estate planning are usually called estate planning.
Mm, okay. Okay, another question. How do you go about setting up a will if you have shared properties and investments with your partner?
I
That's
would
a big
refer
one.
to, I know, I'm a single mom, so I don't have to worry about that. Hopefully I get married one day. But then, which is why I'm establishing my trust now, because I want everything protected for me and my children before my dream man enters the chat, enters my life. And I'm protecting everything. But I think also speaking with either accountant, but also an attorney,
Mhm,
just to do that does the wills and everything. So if it's because the laws are different pertaining to when property was bought or who owns the property, those different things. But then I would definitely say certain assets that we have, a lot of times we see at the bank is if it is a married couple and they don't have the person designated with them, when this one spouse passes away, the other spouse doesn't have access to that account. So it's simple things as just making sure that your names are on their accounts, you know where these documents are, there's copies, there's digital copies of everything, the car, insurance, life. But
mhm,
um, if it's life insurance, wills, and property, I would definitely speak with a professional because they'll know how to set it up. If it's a property that has a lien with a bank, it's going to be different than a property like that has a note to the bank, right? The bank still has the lien on it. It's going to be different than an asset that is owned free and clear. There's no debt. And so it varies, but I would, and I know all of these things cost money, especially with an attorneys, but if you're for real protecting your family, it is worth it to make that investment to deal with it with an attorney, because there's like legal Zoom and different websites that helps people
mhm,
that is cheaper, maybe $99. I mean, I don't know. But my stuff was set up by an attorney.
mhm. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Finally.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go
Yes,
ahead?
Yes,
yes.
Miss
Oh, all
Stella.
right. Okay, yeah. First, I really want to say thank you so much for the presentation. That was so informative. God
You're
bless
welcome.
you. And God bless your children for the impact they're making in the community. Thank you. So my question is, what's your view on setting up life and health insurance for children from early age?
So setting up like life insurance,
Yeah,
so like the
yeah.
children
Health
have
and
their
life
own.
insurance. Excellent.
I don't have a policy on my kids. I think my mom in Kenya had one on me till I was 18 or something like that, and then it matures. Um, I I don't have a policy on them. I have my own policy. And so I have two policies. So I have one through work, and then I have my own life insurance. So mine, I think, right, is like $500,000. So I think if you do want to set it up for them, um, definitely speak to like like a insurance expert. The only thing I have set up for them is a 529 college savings
Mm-hmm.
account, that is specifically for college, but then I don't have life insurance on them. I have health insurance again through work, but then I don't have a specific policy for them. They do say sometimes, like the Rockefellers, they have a certain policy where you can insure and then the beneficiaries benefit from it, a cash value.
Mm.
I don't have that. I don't have enough wealth to do that just yet. But then they are experts in that. And so I'm a banker. I'm not in the insurance world. And so I would defer to them. But it's not something I've done for my kids. But I have it where if I pass away, I have a
It
designated
evolves on
person
them.
on the insurance. Yeah. And then because they're 18, if I have them as the beneficiary on my insurance, it goes to probate. They can't even touch it
Mm-hmm.
until they're 18
Mm-hmm.
anyway. And so I have two people designated on my life insurance, one at 80%, another one at 20%, so that they go to private school, so that their tuition is still paid. My house is paid. It will be enough to pay off my mortgage, but the people can pay the taxes on the house. They can still send them on a vacation once a year. So I have people I trust that will get my life insurance, but then when my children turn 18, if I'm still alive, I'll switch them to be the beneficiary.
Mm-hmm.
But if I pass away now and I have them as the beneficiary, they can't touch it until they're 18. So it's not even gonna be helpful in terms of taking care of their home and education.
And
All right. Thank you so much.
I love that conversation, though, that because
Yeah.
a lot here in abroad, let me just say abroad, the
Mhm.
dynamics are different, and I like the fact that
Yeah.
you even you have life insurance. Most employers would say, you're entitled to life insurance so that if anything happens to you, um, the kids are protected. And
Yeah.
another thing that Shamim said that I really, really love, and that it was just an eye opener. You know how in the local communities in Nigeria and Kenya, if someone passes away, maybe a father or a mother passes away, it's almost like everything stops. The kids do not know anything, the spouse do not know anything. One, because they were never carried along in the process. They don't,
Yeah.
I was speaking with a friend recently and she was saying, I was saying, oh, your passport. And she was saying, oh, my passport, all of the information, everything was with her husband. And I said, so you don't know where it is. What about the code? So, oh no, it takes it up. I'm like, what on earth is that? Like what?
Yeah.
Like, so if anything happens now, we will be running after skelter.
Yep.
No, the kids, your spouse should be on that table having financial discussion. Your budget should be open. Everything should be transparent. So that if someone now comes tomorrow and even let's say the person that you put as your attorney, power of attorney, decides to
Mhm.
misbehave, the kids can say, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. This is
Yep.
how mommy did it. This is how daddy did it. This was the plan.
Yeah.
This is, I know where everything is vested. That is how you build a legacy.
Yeah. And the first time I did my will, I put my mom had a percentage, the kids had a percentage, their dad had a percentage, my best friend, and I was like, this, like my mom is in Kenya. By the time she even like this issue, like it's not like if I'm really doing it for them, I had to take out culture and expectations. And so my family isn't any of my beneficiaries is really good friends one is here in Little Rock and is my best friend in Atlanta. But I had that discussion with my mom that when I pass away, I don't want to be buried in Kenya. Like my kids are
Mhm.
here. Like
Mhm.
my dad is buried in Kenya in the village. So when I go home, I have to go, like I'm going home in 2 weeks. I won't even have time to go visit him because I'm going for 7 days. I don't have time to go to village to pay my respects, you know?
Mhm.
And so I have had that discussion with my family that no, don't send my boys in Kenya. Don't do a harambe, a go for. I don't want to see a go fund me. Oh, she left behind 2 children. No, she left behind 2 children and there's life insurance. They'll be okay. Like you guys just love on them, take care of them, but there should be no need for a fundraiser for me because I have policies in place. And I understand that it happens and I understand its culture, but those are some really hard discussions that we don't have. You know, I'm on a family group and every other day somebody's passed away. We're raising money for a hospital bill, we're raising money for I don't know what. And we try to bring up those conversations, and you know, some of it is cultural, but you're a mother, like it's my
Mhm.
children, and I had to make the best decision for my family.
Okay, I think we'll take one more. Someone said, at what age did you start financial literacy with your children? I think Shamim addressed this earlier on, but I'll let you speak to that again.
Yeah, I think so. We went to Disney. Ella was 5, so I started with them at 4. So my baby was 4, and Liam was 6 when we really started the envelope system. And they have specific wallets for their spending. And it would just be like they can go to the store and buy chocolate or a toy or whatever, but they had their own money, they have their own wallet, but so it was like 4. My youngest was 4 at the time,
Mm.
and now she's 9. So we do a
Wow.
little bit more complex
And you
things.
can tell the last time we had a party, it was my birthday, and our chef, this is he owns the house. We had the party at his place, and then he had made a cake, right? And they had made the food and everything. And Ella and Bome and the kids were at the table. They were all looking and they wanted a piece of cake. And then Chef said, "Oh, I made this cake." And he was like, "Wow, you made this cake?" And Ella was like, "Do you know you can make money from this?" We can bake cakes and sell them. And I just looked at how a little brain was working, like
Yeah.
profits.
Yep.
How can we make money from? And I loved it. I really, really loved it.
It
Um,
is. And also I say being honest with your children. And so when I don't have the money to do it, you know, I'm honest with them. I don't guilt trip them. I don't lay adult issues on them. I just say, "Hey, right now we can't do this because we have to, like right now we last year for summer stuff vacation, we went to Kenya and we were on 9 different flights, you know, between here and home. And we went to the beach and we did all of that. And this year we went to the park an hour away for 2 days. So we vacationed last year for 4 weeks. This year we vacationed, I took a week off, but we only went like 2, 3 days. But I had to tell them we're releasing a book in the fall, and we have to pay the publisher. You know, our illustrator is in Ghana. There's marketing expenses. We have a translator we've contracted. So we have to hunker down right now and not be able to spend as much money or me buy what they need because we are releasing a second version of the book in the fall. And if the business doesn't have it, I got to dip into my money. And so they understand that, you know, they understand. And so I think in the space where adults, we feel the pressure to do things, explain your children why you're doing it. If you're not able to do it, be honest with them in a very in a way they can process it. And then that way they understand, because I think we get tied to wanting to do things for our children, especially if they're good kids. My kids are good kids, and I want to get them the world, but I don't want to be broke. You know what I mean? And so just balancing what we're trying to teach them young with making sure we're not going broke trying to maintain this lifestyle and give them the world, but then our tires go out and we don't have money for an emergency fund. So it's a balance. But yeah, I would say whoever was asking how old is their youngest kid?
I think Ada's baby is 1 or 2. 1, I believe. Sinead is 1, I believe.
Yeah.
She's 1. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Shamim. I think we're going to wrap it up.
Perfect.
It's 1 hour. And I want to say thank you to everyone. If you have people that are booting on their questions, if you have more questions, you can write it up and send them to me and I'll collate everything. And I think everybody's minds have just been blown. Oh, Sinead is going to be 2. Me too. Wow, that was fast. Okay.
Yeah, and even with that, if you have like Naira or just the money, you know how you teach them to count 1, 2, 3, 4, teaching them with money, like money songs, just it's so easy to incorporate it in their world where they're touching it, feeling it, smelling it.
And they have these toys these days that there's so many toys like banking toys, you have the
Yeah.
notes, you have the coins, you have the
Yeah, so her putting
uh,
like a coin in a piggy, like Ella wrote on this piggy bank. So her putting money or him or her, just you can do it at that young age. Just make sure they don't eat the coins.
Yeah. There's this also toys like lemonade stand, cash registry, there's so many. She already has savings, amazing. All right. I know we can talk more and more and more about this, but I want to be respectful of our time. One of the basics about building legacies is also being prudent with time, being good stewards of your money, your resources, your time. So I want to say thank you to Shamin, and thank you so much for obliging us, adding extra minutes.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Daughters of Sarah, thank you. We'll meet today at 4 a.m. for prayer meeting, at Nigerian time. I appreciate everyone. Thank you for your patience. Shamim, we appreciate you. I'll talk to you
Thank you,
afterwards.
Doctor. All
Yes.
right, I'm gonna exit so you can
All
finish.
right. Have fun. Have fun. So thank you, everyone. I know that a lot of us have questions. Some of us will go and listen to this video again, right? Because my own mind has been blown. I've been observing Shamim's work with the kids from afar, and I'm always hands-on with my kids, always, trying to push ideas here. Oh, we can do this and we can do that. And then I see this, I'm always inclined to, okay, when the kids come and say, oh, we want a toy, we want to buy this, we want, if we have the means to do that, we get that for them. And then Shami was talking to me recently, and she was talking about, Liam having a business, teaching them about, self-regulation, when to get a toy. If you want a toy, you can work for it, and I was just like, oh, wow, And I think it goes to also parenting with love and logic, and, what those authors were talking about on creativity, on helping your child use their brain cells more, not just for in the spiritual and mental in school, but also building responsible, financially independent young adults as they grow, as they move forward. So thank you everyone for doing this on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, depending on where you are. We'll meet at 4 a.m. Nigerian time. Have a blessed day. Thank you. Does anyone have anything to say before we go?
Thank you, Jimoke. Thank you so much for putting this together. God bless you. Thank you for your time, and thank you to our guest speaker as well. It's been exciting, enlightening as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bitayo. Thank you. I appreciate that. So if we don't have any other thing, I'll just say have a good night, a good evening, everyone. See you at 4 a.m. Nigerian time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Mom.
Bye.